Hello and welcome to the Save the Frogs Africa meeting, December 9th, 2023, our fifth and final meeting of the year. Thanks everyone who's been taking part in these meetings, and I'm looking forward to 2024, which we can discuss later. But we're going to start this out. We have a special guest, Tom Odeyo from Kenya, postgraduate master's student at Kenyatta University, volunteer for the National Museums of Kenya Herpetology section, is going to be talking about the Taita Warty Frog. Tom, let's get you up here. Feel free to give a more thorough introduction about yourself, and if I got any of that wrong, apologies, please correct me. But yeah, tell us about yourself. Tell us about the Taita Warty Frog. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. And anything you think that we should know about Kenyan amphibian ecology and conservation.
Good evening once again.
Hi.
Sorry for the lights. It's 9 p.m. Over here, and things I think I'll have to work on my sitting room lights in future.
It's good.
Thank you. So, as you've introduced, my name is Thomas N. Odeyo from Kenya. I'm a volunteer at the National Museum of Kenya, at least for the last 3 years. And I'm also a postgrad student at Kenyatta University doing animal ecology. Sorry, I've been quite busy. I think I registered to be one of your members, to be a member of Save the Frog early this year. But I've been quite busy, so I haven't been taking part in the meetings that much. But I have some of my colleagues like Jess who've been very active, and they encouraged me to be very much active in that. These are very good learning platform to share knowledge and also to grow career-wise and as a researcher. So in short, for the amphibians in Kenya, I think there is more to be done. Little has been done. More research still needs to be done. And one of the areas I have been working on was is the Taita Warty Frog. Initially, it was one of my target. I wanted to make it my thesis, but along the line, I changed the based on my supervisor's advice and other factors. I changed my thesis, and I'm currently also working on reptiles of Shimba Hills National Reserve. That's at the coastal part of Kenya. But at the same time, I'm just still working on the Taita Warty Frog. And as the title shows, you don't mind if is this just an introduction, or I can go ahead and start sharing?
You can give us your whole presentation, share. Yeah,
Okay,
and we
thank
don't
you.
have, I believe you were originally set up for 15 minutes, but we've got more time than that, so don't be in a hurry.
Okay, thank you. Let me just go ahead and share that one.
All right, you're coming through. Just go ahead and make it full screen.
Okay.
At the bottom right. Yep. All right, that's
There.
it.
Thank you. Uh, uh, Before then, when I came at the museum, that was back in 2020, not 2020, I came there as an intern. And then after the internship, I decided to volunteer at the same institution. And during my interactions, I got more motivated and decided to enroll for a master's at Kenyatta University. And that's where my interest grew to do more research on this Taita Hills Warty Frog. The scientific name is Callulina dawida. And for my time at the museum, I've also joined Nature Kenya. That's one of the oldest East African natural history a society. And there at Nature Kenya, I became part of the Kenya Herpetofauna Working Group. That's a group focused on working on reptiles and amphibians. And one of the goals, one of the things we do is besides educational awareness to schools, to communities, we also do these kinds of research. And through the group, that's where the idea came from. And finally, I became the lead in working on this frog. And before then, only one study had been done on this frog, and that was back in between 2004 and 2008, which the study was investigating the natural history of the frogs. No study had been done before on the frog. So whatever I've done in the past 1 year is just I'll call them primary studies, or we're still finding more or doing more investigations. More still needs to be done on the same frog, and this is just half of what we've done so far and what we've unearthed so far and what we've contributed to the study which had been done before. So I'll dive into the presentation, and my talk will be divided into 4 sections. One will be highlighting the current conservation status. The second will be talking why, what's more unique about this Taita Hills Warty Frog. The third will be talking about, we'll be diving into the threats and talking about its survival. And the last part will be, what can we do as scientists, as we call ourselves friends of amphibians. What can we do as to the local community and other stakeholders? The IUCN status states that based on the previous assessment, which was last done in 2014, it's critically endangered and also decreasing. Why do we say so? Or what led them to make this kind of conclusion? One of the factors which we can attribute to that is that the Taita Warty frog is endemic to Taita Hills Forest. Taita Hills Forest is a coastal forest, one of the coastal forests in Kenya. It's highly fragmented. Only few forest blocks are remaining, and 98% of it is gone. Only 2% is remaining. And one of the things we can attribute to that is increased settlement, as we shall see, and also clearing of the indigenous forest in the area and replacing it with exotic trees. So what about the Taita Hills Warty frog? It's restricted to indigenous, based on the studies which was done, based on that one study, which was done also through the National Museum of Kenya. The species is restricted to the indigenous forest blocks of the Taita Hills. And here we have the few forest blocks remaining, which is Gangao, Chavia, Ndivenyi, Macha, Mwachora, Boma, Iale, Makadenyi, and Afururu. Why do we call them forest blocks? One of the things we found out when we went there to study is that so much, I'll say, so much damage has been done on the forests, in that there's so much settlement, and the distance between the one forest block and the other is long, and we understand that amphibians are not big migrators, that they will migrate from one area to another. No, so the few forest blocks that are there, the frog is restricted to that forest, and it's referred to as one of the flagship species for the area. Besides that, we have the Sagala sicilians, which is also found in that area. We have we have birds there, and other kind of species which are restricted in that area. So among them, we have this Taita Hills Warty frog, endemic to that kind of region only, and it's not found in anywhere else in the world or any other forest in Kenya. So this is how it looks. From my first slides, we saw the red coloration. If you can allow me to go back. We have this red coloration. This one of the encounters we got, one of the observation we made, and to come to this is another coloration we also observed of the same species, and these are things that have not been studied to try and understand what makes the variation in the coloration. Do we have are there differences in the type of trees, indigenous trees, the substrate, the leaf litter? Do we have any differences in those kind of microhabitats? These are things that we still hoping that we will explore when you go back to the field and try to understand more what makes the differences. And like this one, we found it in a different forest with the red coloration, and where we found the red coloration part of the Taita Hills Warty frog, we didn't find it in the other forests. So these are things we're still trying to understand and what contributes to that. So in our field surveys, we also came across a brooding female. And what's more unique about this this frog, unlike frogs are known to be to have a tadpole stage, especially those staying in wetlands, they are known to have a tadpole stage. But what's more unique about this species, this Taita Hills Warty frog, it doesn't have a tadpole stage. And given that it's a terrestrial terrestrial species, what's more unique about it? So the reproductive process, like we observed, and like what has been observed in the previous study, it has direct development and it doesn't need water. And that's why the indigenous forest of Taita Hills is more important. And in all the observation we made, we never came across any that was in any exotic plantation, no. And in the study that was done before, the one which made the observation between 2004 to 2008, 101 individuals were observed, and that's around a period of 4 years. In our observation, which was done recently, and that's this year, early this year, for a period of 1 month, we only came across 10 observation. What does this indicate? Is the population decreasing despite us having a short period of being a a short period of study, should we be worried that the population is decreasing for this endemic species only restricted to this forest? So the more intense our study will be in future, we'll be able to unearth such kind of things and be able to establish the population trend. So for the reproduction process, we understand that it does not have a tadpole stage, and that's why it's unique. And then the female takes up a protective role, and whenever you approach it, it puffs and increases in size in order to protect, as a defensive mechanism of protecting the eggs. And usually the reproductive process has been observed that not in about a clutch of 40 eggs, not all of them hatch into small froglets. No, one of the factors, one of the character or behavior, reproductive behavior of it is that we see the remaining unfertilized eggs usually provide the moisture for the others, and then prevent desiccation. And in this case, that's where the indigenous forest comes in, and the kind of microhabitat created for the kind of microhabitat created by an indigenous forest. And we understand that that kind of habitat is totally different with the one provided by an exotic plantation. And in one of our observations, like this one, we found that we went during the dry season. We've not gone back during the wet season, but during the dry season, what we observed is that these frogs are found in, I'll refer to forest litter with a lot of moisture. And this shows the differences with other amphibians, whereby we have with other frogs which are found in a water, in a pond or wetland. So this stresses the significance of the forest and the kind of leaf litter found in that indigenous forest. So these are things we are still trying to understand what kind of substrate in that forest contributes to that and contributes to the survival of this frog. And to go to the next slide, just stressing how unique this frog is. In the local dialect, it's called mwang'ombe. That's a Swahili word, mwang'ombe. Mwang'ombe means like a cow, and that's how it's called. And this is because of the way it walks. Unlike other species we have encountered, like the Taikadina or other type of frog species I've seen, this one is adapted for climbing. It has short legs and long fingers, unlike others which usually have long, especially long hind legs to propel them to jump. No, this one walks like a cow, and then it's well suited for climbing trees and vines. And this one of its adaptation in that it's at night you will see it coming out, and during our night surveys we encountered it on trees, but during the day you will find we encountered it on small trees and vines, but during the day you'll find it burrowed in leaf litter and logs and other kind of rotting trees. So as I've explained, it walks rather than hop like the other frogs. And then our observation also found it hides in leaf litter and decaying logs during the day, and at night you'll find it on top of trees, and that's one of the observation we made. And like other, it also, like other frogs, it has males call to attract breeding females. So to come to one of the most important part of our study and what we were able to establish, we were able to come up with at least 5 direct threats. And one of the threats we found is a limited remaining habitat. What does this mean? It means that of the 2% of the forest remaining, and the 2%, that's the indigenous forest. There has been so much alteration in that this leads to or limits its reproductive success, and also exposes the frog to potential risk of extinction. And in our observation, as I've stressed before, the indigenous forest, and in the recent past, we've come with the government has faced that kind of challenge, whereby the community, that's the local farmers and people coming up with so many settlement, building homes and everything. People want to plant exotic trees as a quick way of earning money, in that someone assumes that when I plant exotic trees around my homestead, within 2 years, 3 years, I'll be able to harvest these trees and sell them. So people are coming up and then ending up destroying this habitat. And with this kind of limitation, this frog is exposed to many dangers. And then this leads us to another direct trace, which is a fragmented indigenous forest habitat. And this is also linked to conversion to exotic plantation. And we observed that a very large plantation of eucalyptus trees in the area. And one of the things we noted in our discussion with the forest management, there were even their efforts to try and get rid of those exotic trees in the meantime. But because it's a government institution, and a government process takes a long time, and then there is a lot of policy discussion, political factors involved, in that you will see a politician coming up and saying that or even the local leader saying that, why are you saying that we should get rid of this, or those kind of things. So it's a long stretch, but fragmented indigenous forest in this area is a very, very big threat to the Taita Hills Warty Frog. And here we came up and saw that with the direct threat of fragmented indigenous forest habitat, what does it lead to? It leads to population isolation. And then it also leads to decline in prey availability. And as the result, one of the resultant factors is limited gene flow, in that with time or along the years, shall we have a difference in the gene flow and in the genetic makeup of this species? And that's why more studies need to be done, and that also could explain, is that the reason why we have different coloration in these different forests of the same species, in that in one forest block we have a red coloration, in one forest we have a dark silver coloration. Is that a kind of adaptation that this frog is is trying to adjust to the prevailing kind of habitat is being exposed to. And then that also leads us to another direct threat, which is large distance between population. This kind of large distance, as we've seen, as we shall see in one of the photos ahead in the slides, in that in between one forest to the other, in fact, besides the photo, between one forest fragment to the other, at least we travel at least 20 minutes in a car, which shows is a long distance. And what does it mean? It means that the frog is unable to travel from one area to migrate from one area to another. And also in one of our surveys, not surveys, but discussion with the community, they say that they have encountered this frog on the road, while some say while going to school, they have encountered this frog. What does that indicate? Even though us as researchers, we didn't encounter that, but what does that kind of information indicate? Does it indicate that this frog is trying to initially, or probably before, it used to get from one, it was able to get from one forest fragment to the other, but currently due to this kind of changes in the ecosystem and habitat, it's unable to. So what does this kind of fragmentation or large distance between population expose this frog to? It exposes to vulnerability to diseases. Beside the diseases, we risk wiping it out. For example, the eggs we found. What happens if the few hatch froglets that have been able to survive? What happens if predators come and feed on all of them, or a few are unable to escape to another area? So what happens in that scenario? So the vulnerability of this frog increases as a result of large distance between population. Then the last part is the logging and wood harvesting. And this also came out, and we were able to see at least half of our participants were women, and most of them, at least 6% of them, are not aware of the existence of this frog. And this kind of population segment is the one that largely takes part in wood harvesting. And in such, Taita Hills forest is a rural part of Kenya, and most of this, a large part of the homestead in that area, a larger part of it uses firewood as the main source of cooking. They don't use gas. So you'll find that these community women go into the forest to harvest wood, to collect wood. And in most parts, in such kind of areas, they are usually not restricted, like they won't be limited, and because it's not, the forest, a larger part of it is not fenced. Yes, we have a management like the Kenya Forest Service, but a larger part is not fenced. So means that the community is able to stroll into the forest and pick or collect firewood. What happens if one of the evenings or one of the days, the community member goes into the forest and picks up a log, a rotting log, or which probably from an indigenous tree which has fallen down, and goes and uses as a firewood? What does this mean? It means that the habitat for this frog is being destroyed. So in the next season or in the future, the frog won't have a place to hatch its eggs, or the frog won't have a place to hide from predator, or the kind of microhabitat that supports its survival or that triggers the reproduction process won't be there. So these are some of the challenges we got or these are some of the findings we got from our discussion with the community. And what does this mean? What does this lead, or where does this lead? It leads to a population decline as a result of habitat loss due to logging. And one of the issues that came up during our discussion and survey in the field is that not many people, especially I don't know in your area, but in us here, not many people are so much into reptiles and amphibians. They see frogs like just normal. Most of the focus in Kenya has been on the big five species like the lions, the elephants, the giraffes, the rhinos, but they have not focused on the small species that largely go unnoticed. And this was very evident in that not many of them, they were even wondering, why are we trying to talk to them about this frog? They even didn't know that the frog is so unique in that it's only found in that place. So this is what this was one of our goals when we went to the field, and this still remains our goal. And what we can do. And one of the things we were stressing to them is their area is indigenous forests. Yeah, the frogs only relies on an indigenous forest cover. It cannot survive in an exotic plantation. And we understand that studies have been done before in that the forest floor in an exotic plantation, tree plantation, and a forest tree plantation is usually different. And this could explain why the so much difference in the survival or the population of the population distribution of this frog. And one of the things we are trying, we expect to get from this study is a distribution map of the frog, and then beside the distribution map, we also expect to gain an understanding of the different areas, especially the small microhabitat, and what defines those microhabitat. How unique are they? Are they, is the tree found in one fragmented forest different from the other? Is the size of leaf litter different from the other? Is it the same? Is the type of substrate contributing to the difference? So these are some of the things we are trying to establish, and also educate the community how the role of this indigenous forest, how is it, how different is the Taita Warty frog from other amphibians that rely on a wetland or a pool of water to reproduce. And as we've seen, the indigenous forest provides the required environment for its unique reproductive cycle. So what can we do? What can we do as researchers? What can we do as Save the Frog? And one of the goals was to educate the community. And this is one of the areas we were, and we were able to create posters, we were able to create leaflets. And our next phase of our project is we shall be going to schools and try to reach out to the young generation, especially the primary school going kids, in that these are the future researchers and scientists. These are the future community leaders, and try to teach them what's more unique about this species and what they have. In this case here, our host, we were hosted by one of the group that is conserving the forest, that is fighting to conserve the forest. And we took them in that we teach them so that they go and teach others on what they have. So here we were hosted by the Dawida, a biodiversity group, which is, I think the other projects also doing on the forest, dealing with birds. And it was much easier to teach them and tell them what's more important about, what's more unique about this frog, in that as they do other conservation works, as they do planting of trees in the area, they should keep in mind that we have such kind of frog there. And in future, or in the near future, we expect to be able to understand the kind of microhabitat in that, especially on the type of trees, in that when planting trees, for so long, people have been focusing on planting trees for indigenous forest, but what are we planting the right type of, or are we planting the right type of indigenous trees that support our frogs? Are we planting the right type of indigenous trees that support enough substrate for the survival of terrestrial frogs? And this is the kind of things we expect to establish in the early part of 2024. So here my team, one of the scientists from the National Museum of Kenya, and also our host there. This is one of the places we came. I'm sorry, the photo, I cannot zoom in, but here is one of the observation of the species. And as you can see, we are trying to take a good shot of it. And on the right is we were on top of one hill, one forest, and you can see the settlement in. This was initially a forest before, so you can see the homestead already. Here we were on top of one of the forest blocks, so you can see the settlement. And 10 years along the line, probably we won't have these trees. So as seen in the photo, probably we'll just have settlement buildings, or 50 years, I'm not sure, 20 years, I'm not sure. But this shows the threat we have. As we can estimate, these are one of the forest blocks. So the kind on the left, we have one of the observation. This frog will be unable to migrate or move, connect with the other population in another forest block. So these are one of the challenges we were having, and we were encouraging the community as they come up with homesteads like these ones. Instead of planting exotic trees around their homestead, they should instead plant indigenous trees, so that we have that continuation of the forest. So one of the recommendation was continue engagement with the community and stakeholders, given these are the key people. We scientists are only there to inform, but it's up to them to take up the initiative. And we were lucky that in our meetings, we were able to have local leaders and local administrative leaders who were very encouraging. And one of the administrative leaders said that like in his homestead, he's only planted indigenous forests. And he has only planted indigenous trees. And these are the kind of things we expect as leaders also to, from leaders, in that they lead by example. And with that, the other section of the local community can also embrace that. And with this kind of initiative, we're able to protect the frog. the species and other kind of frogs in the area, or amphibians. And one of also the recommendation was more effort and strategies for the Taita Hills frog. And one of the things is more intense study, in that let it just not be a 1 year study. Let it be a continuous study, in that we are able, like we do for birds, because like in the area, Nature Kenya does a lot of research on birds, and it's an ongoing thing. So we want to initiate such kind of things for amphibians, in that we have, let it not be a one-time thing, but an ongoing process, in that we're able to monitor, we're able to see the population changes, we're able to compare population changes this year and next year between the dry and wet season. Like currently we have a lot of rain in the area, in the coastal part of Kenya. In this kind of environment, we are able to monitor the population and be able to not only inform us as scientists, but also inform the local leaders, if they are, or the local community, if they are doing the right thing. More studies needed on the type of trees, density of the freshly and decomposing leaf litter. These are things we expect to unearth, and also more scientists to join us in trying to establish this thing, not only for the Taita Hills Warty Frog. In our study, in our field survey, we also encountered other endemic amphibians in the area, like the Taita Sicilian. And these are amphibians only found in that area. So we expect to unearth these kind of things, findings or interest, and also be able to inform when like the other recently, about a month ago, we had a national holiday for planting trees. The whole country, even the president took part. So when we are going to plant the trees, are we planting the right trees? Are the local leaders, MPs, governors doing the right thing? So these are things we trying to, and hope that we will share with the local government on that. And also future initiative, we need ways to connecting the forest fragment through riverine corridors and enhance species movement. And this is one of the challenges I think the species will have, the Taita Hills Warty Frog will face. And us here as amphibian enthusiasts, I think we, and also me being part of the group, I think I'll be able to learn, and also be able to go and apply the knowledge. How well can we try to save these species? How well can we approach the community, in that they plant, they're able to, we encourage the community to connect the forest fragment. So here are our hosts, the hosts, our host on the ground. And in one of the last few days of our survey, we were able to plant indigenous trees in the area. But one of the things I still is stressing, that I hope in the future we'll be able to know and have more knowledge on the kind of trees, indigenous trees we shall be planting, instead of just planting any tree. So that's the end of my presentation, and there I acknowledge the thanks to the National Museum of Kenya for helping me, Nature Kenya. Then on the left is the Dawida Biodiversity Conservation CBO. Those are our hosts, and then our founders who are the MBZ Species Conservation Fund. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present the work we've done so far.
All right, thank you so much, Thomas Odeyo from Kenya, for that excellent presentation and for all of your efforts. Please unshare your screen.
Okay, thank you.
And everyone out there, questions? Questions or comments? You can chat them in. You can raise your hand. You can. You may not be able to unmute yourself. Let me fix that though. And you can even turn on your video. Imagine that if people turn on their videos. All right, Steve. Steve, where are you at these days?
Where am I at? I'm still in Portugal, and the good news, Kerry, is we've had enough rain to fill the temporary pools here. We've actually got tadpoles in some of the pools, which is,
Okay, good.
and we've got more rain on the way, so I'm pleased about that.
All right.
Um, what I wanted to say, well, I've got a couple of things to say. I actually see a new friend of mine here, Hills Morgan. So shout out to Hills.
All right, welcome, Hills.
And Hills, like myself, is a musician. So that's I'm pleased to see him here.
All right.
The other thing I
Yeah.
wanted to say is, Tom, I thought that was a fascinating presentation about a really interesting species. And obviously the habitat destruction is a big problem there. I was wondering, have you actually thought of having like a captive, population, so that you'd have some if it got really bad, you'd at least have some you could maybe reintroduce. Is that a possibility?
Yes, I think that's a possibility, and I've seen some studies. I've come across studies that have tried to explore that kind of approach in other countries on on frogs that were nearly extinct in the area, and I think this is an area of exploration for us, although it will require a lot of administrative follow-up, especially the Kenya Wildlife Service. But where we are going, this will be the most likely approach.
Oh, that's great. So thank you again for your presentation. I'm just wondering, Kerry, have you got anything about to say about that? Do you think that would be
I
a
sure do.
idea?
Yeah, my first question, Thomas, can you remind us what is I believe you said it, but I could be wrong. What is the estimated population size of this species? Do we know that? Or can we guess on that?
Currently, we cannot establish the exact population size because of our study was not that intense, but from the previous study that was done between 2004 to 2008, the estimated population was 101. They observed 101 individuals. That was a period of 4 years.
Okay. All right, thanks. That's the number that I remember hearing. So, and it's hard to tell the true population size, but let's assume there's 100. If we took 4 of them out of the wild, we'd be reducing the entire known population by 4%, which is, to me, a significant number. And so here's my thoughts on captive breeding. It takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of time. And once you've got them breeding, where are you going to put them? Because the problems that led them to that point of endangerment may probably still exist. So that's the problem. The population size gets real small. Some of these frogs are not easily bred in captivity, and you probably don't know until you try. I know that in Australia, I'm thinking of a Crumbit tinker frog. Their population size is very small, so goal for captive breeding was to find the most similar species that was not endangered and to make sure that you could breed those in the hopes that you could transfer that knowledge to the actually critically endangered species. I also like that one thing I've always remembered is visiting a very well-run captive breeding facility in Ecuador and asking the manager, when do you expect to release these frogs in the wild? And he said there is no expectation, decades maybe, because the problems that drove them to near extinction are still there, so there wouldn't be too much reason to put them out there. So that's my thoughts on the topic. It's a difficult situation. I like the idea. I had never thought too much about planting the right tree when we've got all these planting programs, and we just heard how important that is. And I do like that they've got a National Day of Tree Planting. I've never heard of that happening anywhere else. So it reminded me there's a woman with a famous book whose name I will completely get wrong, but something like Fangari Mata. Please correct me. Who is she?
With Wangari Maathai.
Is she from
Professor
Kenya?
Maathai. Yes, she's from Kenya, but
Okay, so I'm sure she's got a lot of a lot to do with the fact that there's a national day of tree planting, because I know her book is famous.
I've shared one of the studies that was done on the species on the link,
okay,
which was describing the natural history observation, and
okay, good.
it has the estimated population size. Then
All right.
I saw a question: how high in trees do they usually go? Not so high. I think about not more than 50 centimeters. And if you can allow me, I share a video before I answer the other questions. I have a short clip of it walking, so that you can at least picture what we are actually talking about. You can see. Can you see the screen?
Yep.
So that is it, and you can see it's
That's how they hide?
Yeah, that's how they hide.
Okay, yeah, I'm good.
Once more.
Watch it. That's how they hide?
So have you seen?
Yeah, we could see it. Thanks.
Yeah, so I think for probably if you've observed this in other kind of observation, probably other species of frogs, these are species which will say that it can't go far, or it can't migrate that far from one forest to the other. So probably this is one of the challenges it has, in that the population isolation from one area to another.
All right, we've only got like 2 minutes left. I've got to go. We do have some questions. Let's just give us a super fast answer to these ones. Do they have, or what are their known defenses against predators, and do they have any poisons on their skin?
Yeah, they have predators, the snakes, and then those are one of the immediate predators. And then defense mechanism, they have that's why their name comes from the Taita Hills Warty Frog. They have warts, and these warts produce a secretion. Whenever they are held, they produce a secretion, which is usually a form of defensive mechanism. Whenever you have a cat, even from the first photo, we could see some whitish substance on covering the frog from the first photo I showed. So they usually have a defensive mechanism in that they produce some secretion. Thank you.
Okay. A question, are the frogs ovoviparous? Ovoviparous? And if so, can you explain what that is? As I recall, I thought that was something that was in reptiles. That's got to do with the way that they bear their young. Do you know the answer to that question?
Pardon?
I would assume that it's a no. Let's just
No.
oh, there is a reply. Yes, it is. Okay, we see a yes, it is. So let's producing eggs that hatch within the female's body. All right. I would not think that was the case. Did we hear about that happening?
No. They
Nah.
have they usually lay eggs.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So the answer to that is a no. And I think that's it. I just have one final question, or you could even think about this if there is no immediate answer. But if there was one thing that Save the Frogs could do to help you help this frog, do you know what that would be?
One of the things is trying to reach out to the community, because those are the most important stakeholders, the local community.
Okay.
And I hope the next time we are going back to the field, we will even go with the one of your members. Yes, that's Jacinta Chege, who is also one of my colleagues. We've been volunteering with her at the National Museum. So we're hoping to go with her and then teach more, try to spread the news about the frog, and have you on board as partners.
Okay. All right. Well,
Yes.
we've got Save the Frogs Day coming up, the 16th annual, I believe it is, 16th annual Save the Frogs Day, April 28th, 2024. I encourage everyone to organize an event. For you in particular, if you all want to organize a Save the Frogs Day event, that's a good educational opportunity. And Save the Frogs does have a round of grants coming up from February 1st to March 1st is the time to apply. SaveTheFrogs.com/grants, and we have a grant program specifically to fund Save the Frogs Day event. So I definitely encourage you to look into that, and we will be holding 2 meetings, probably end of January and middle of February, to discuss the grants program, though we have plenty of videos on Save the Frogs Academy and the fundraising course already, but we will be available to answer questions on that. So I encourage you to look into that. Save the Frogs would definitely be happy to assist in those efforts. So on that note, yeah, I have to go. Everyone, a round of applause for Tom.
Thank you so much. And
Yeah.
I hope that we will be able, I'll be back again to present the final findings probably on the same, and also to share more on what we've done on other amphibians, frogs within Nairobi and other areas.
All right. And all you people out there, if you know people who would be interested in these meetings, then please send them to SaveTheFrogs.com/Africa and have them register. Get some more people showing up here. If you have ideas for events in 2024 or anything else that Save the Frogs Africa could or should be doing, then let's be in touch. And wishing everyone a happy new year. And that's it. Thanks for helping Save the Frogs. Bye.
Thank you.